Well, Lee, continuing to lose wind intensity as it continues to be pushed to the north. I want to show you the water vapor loop and a couple of reasons why we've seen that loss of wind intensity here. Number one, look how things are moving here from Louisiana off the North Carolina coast. This is wind shear. Winds in the upper part of the atmosphere out of the west-southwest. And that's why when you look at the water vapor loop, our center of circulation right in here, but where do you see all the moisture denoted by the white and the green? On the northern and eastern side of that center of circulation. That's because the wind shear is blowing the cloud tops off to the east. Also, dry air denoted by the yellow shading, dry air has made its way into the center of circulation. You see that? You can clearly see dry air in here. So there's not going to be any more intensification. From here on out, Lee is going to continue to lose wind intensity. Northward movement continues, but this dip in the jet stream that's drawing Lee northward, this trough is going to be lifting. And this is where it gets a little tricky as we get into Saturday. I think for the most part, the track is pretty much etched in stone, although there still can be some minor fluctuations to the west or east, depending on how Lee interacts with this next trough coming in, because our trough today is lifting north. So by the time we get into Friday, this trough leaves, and then all of a sudden, you have our next trough coming into the west. And oftentimes these troughs can pull hurricanes in toward them. In this case, it would be toward the west. So I think this is going to be steered north, and I still think there's going to be a bend toward the northwest. Now, is it a sharp bend or a gradual bend? Well, here's the differences here. You can see we continue to tighten up this window. I still can see a landfall as far west as down East Maine. As far east, I think, is the southwest tip of Nova Scotia. Those two scenarios in between them, I actually think this is going to end up being across southern New Brunswick, near the Maine border. But anyway, this is the area that we're looking at for landfall. If we're looking for southwest Ontario, landfall time will be 8 o'clock Sunday morning, 8 o'clock Saturday night. If you get that bend toward the north and northwest, and you get a landfall near the Maine-New Brunswick border there, then we're talking probably around midnight, 1 a.m., late Saturday night. So that's the time for anywhere from 8 o'clock till about 1 o'clock. 8 o'clock Saturday night till 1 o'clock late Saturday night or early Sunday morning. It will not be a hurricane when it makes landfall. It will be a tropical storm. Now, I want to show you the rainfall. Watch that rain starting to come in as we go through the next 24 hours. Here it comes by about 4, 5 o'clock, 8, 9 o'clock, I should say, out on the Cape. Watch that rain continue to wrap on in. There it goes. That's going to be heavy out on the Cape. Here comes the rain into down East Maine along the mid-coast as we head towards Saturday morning. And then depending on that track, if it takes more of a track toward the north, the rain band doesn't get too far west from where it is right now. If we get that jog to the west-northwest, then the heavier rain will linger longer across the Cape, eastern Maine, and that rain gets a little farther west across northern New England here. As far as the rain is concerned, it's going to be a heavy rain, no doubt about it. We're talking about an inch or two around Boston, 2 to 4 inches right now in that medium gray from the Cape toward most of eastern Maine, but down East Maine, southern New Brunswick, southwestern tip of Nova Scotia, that's where we're looking at the heaviest, 4 to 8 inches of rain, because the heaviest rain will be on the western side of where the landfall occurs. Now, keep in mind, oftentimes with hurricanes, we're so concentrating on the center of landfall because all of the rain, the strongest rain and the strongest winds are located around that center of circulation. With Lee, because it is going to be losing wind intensity and it may lose some of its tropical characteristics because it's coming over colder water, you get the rain and wind expanding well away from the storm center. That's why the impacts with Lee, while not as extreme as a Category 1 hurricane or even a true tropical storm, the area impacted is going to be a little larger. Take, for example, the wind. Look at those winds, 40 to 60 miles per hour in Boston, 60, maybe 70 miles per hour from the Cape toward eastern parts of Maine. Strongest winds likely just east of where we have landfall. That's way of southwestern Nova Scotia as the strongest wind gusts could get 70, 80 miles per hour there. Also, because of the way in which that storm is coming in, Friday night and Saturday, we're going to have a strong storm surge in a couple of spots. Southern New Brunswick, down East Maine, southwestern or southern parts of Nova Scotia. And the other area is going to be the south shore of Massachusetts. because what's going to happen is as our storm goes by, you're going to get this northeasterly wind Saturday afternoon. So Saturday morning into Saturday afternoon. And I'm afraid we could be looking at some damage in here with that storm surge. As the wind comes in out of the north, we're going to have gusts 50 to 60 miles per hour and tremendous wave action here. So any of those beaches that face to the northeast, we could be looking at some damage.